What's going on, Workforce? Bryan here, and happy Community Feedback Day. If you're new here, if you just joined the Workforce, Community Feedback is the opportunity for us to highlight your comments on various videos and really discuss them even further. And so what this is going to be focusing in on is the future of Final Fantasy XIV. Yoshi-P has recently come out and talked about how they've been in pre-production for a new game back all the way in 2016, and they are now just leaving the pre-production phase and going on into a next generation video game, whether it's a new IP or another MMO or who knows what it could really be, and that has me really excited. And so I wanted to take some time to highlight what you guys are saying about what you want to see with either another MMO or another game where Yoshi-P has the opportunity to build something from scratch. Now, all of this is wrapped up under his new division. This all comes with the new restructure within Square Enix. And so he might not necessarily be like the producer and director of that game, but I would be surprised if he doesn't have a big hand in it. I can't wait to see from a technology perspective. I can't wait to learn more about this. And in my mind, I'm setting kind of a target to 2022, 2023, sometime around that era, especially if it's an online game, because those take a lot more work than anything else. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. This is what you guys had to say about it. So CHT 5001 writes, I think we're nearing the end. The amount of stuff and lack of things being finished with Shadowbringers is further confirmation. Yoshi is moving on to a different MMO, and this game will remain exactly how it is and how it's been for the last 5 years, and fizzle out shortly after. So William Douglas actually follows it up, and I think these two go really hand in hand. If people paid attention at Tokyo Fan Fest, Yoshi-P said that we would visit the moon in 7.0, and that we were coming up on 5.0. I know that Yoshi-P has another project now too. I don't think this will take from 14, just give him more responsibilities. And so let's kind of pair these two together, because I think there's an interesting theme here. Is 14 going away anytime soon? Probably not. That would be a real shocker. However, 14 is actually coming up on its 9th year running. I've been talking about this game for 10 years this E3. So it is a 9-year-old game. By the time 2023 rolls around, let's just use that as an example, we're talking about a 14, 15-year-old game from when it was conceived, when it was rebooted, and so on. And so that's actually, I think, a pretty decent length of time for an MMO. So by that time, we would be looking at 7.0. Is this game going to get an 8.0? Is it going to get a 9.0? Probably. It just depends if people are willing to pay and sub. I mean, look at 11. 11 got an expansion several years ago, but that was kind of out of the blue. That was really surprising and shocking. And they're also working on something as it relates to 11. So they continue and will continue to support these games. Will 14 be the flagship? I don't think so. I mean, it just depends on what year you're going to be talking about. Final Fantasy XIV at some point will, people are going to want to work on the new things. People are going to want to do that. However, Yoshi-P has talked about, even when they wrap up the Zodiac storyline that we're on, there's still plenty of stories to tell and things that they want to take the game and what kind of direction they want to take the game in. But let's bring back CHT or CTH here, dyslexia kicking in. Talking about nearing the end, and we're at kind of the lack of stuff being finished. I talked about this and got a lot of really interesting responses from people and how they interpreted Final Fantasy is dying. I talk about it from a technology perspective. As an engineer, as somebody who looks at this stuff for a living, but also somebody who builds out systems for a living, when I looked at 14 and you look at 2.0, like they did something that has never been done and no one's actually currently ever attempted to do again, is reboot a failed MMO, being 1.0. And while I personally enjoyed MMO, like 14 1.0, for some of the things that it did really well and wanted some of the things that we have now, there is this weird cross-section between like what it was and what it did really well and what was enjoyable about it. Nobody knew that 2.0 was going to be a success. There is no sense that 2.0 was going to succeed. They thought it would, at least if nothing else, are going to show that them continuing to invest in the game and at least restore the trust and the faith in the community. So Heaven's Word is something that was amazing and really, really moving and really, I guess, just I don't want to say spiritual, but really just satisfying and I thought it was just this beautiful thing. And Stormblood only reiterated that, like in an additional expansion. Wow. And now you see, obviously, just the incredible growth within the player base. And you typically see a lot of growth in this season pre an expansion, which is really good, especially for Final Fantasy. All that being said, what am I getting at? Is that the technology and the engine and what they probably had to do to get 2.0 up has actually made it harder for them to make Heaven's Word, and then eventually make it harder for Stormblood and making it harder for Shadowbringers. Meaning, when they were first doing 2.0, like every little addition was, like exciting. Oh, we had this, we got this, because we had so little. So they were able to add a lot of stuff because there wasn't there. Now they kind of get into the hard work where it's like, okay, to really kind of extend that system or to change that system, we really have to dig in deep. We really have to get into the engine and we really have to change these things. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to do that? And so that kind of comes to the question of 14. And then if there is another MMO or online game, the words and the themes between live service, games as a service, MMO, those things seem to be blending, in my opinion. I think it'll be a couple more years before they truly blend, but that's another topic for another day. But to start with a new engine, to start with a fresh slate, to start with knowing where you want to go, and what the hope is that Yoshi-P can like really do it right. Like I said, like man, I would love to see him build his own thing from the ground up. This could be a disadvantage to him. I don't think it would be, but I think that he's been able to fundamentally change Square Enix's culture. He's been able to really kind of do a lot of these things. And he probably had a good impact on 15, but not enough because obviously the long life of that. Now, when it comes to 16, 17, and beyond, there could be a really good impact there. And that's not to say that what they're working on is another game within the Final Fantasy kind of franchise or universe. It goes from there. Now, if I've confused you, I apologize, and I'll try to kind of summarize it as this. What I was talking about last summer and what was confirmed recently in an interview, probably this interview that kind of sparked this video, is the difficulty in actually building the engine and expanding on it within what would be timely. So it takes them more time to do these things and to do it right and to test it because the game has ultimately gotten bigger. This isn't a bad thing. This is just the way it is. And I think, and I would hypothesize, because I don't have a specific fact that shows it, but the reason why is that when it went from 1.0 to 2.0, like when you had to do these things, like to say what they did in the amount of time they did it while supporting 1.0 and building 2.0 is astronomical what they were able to pull off. Meaning that they probably had to figure out ways to make things work. And then later, when you're doing, Shadowbringers, like we did this, but if we make this change, it's going to break all of these systems. So it just naturally takes more resources. And throwing bodies at the thing isn't always a solution because you have to train those people up. Somebody's not going to walk into the Final Fantasy project and be like, all right, I've been here for 5 years. I know everything there is to know about what's going on with this. So as a human resource challenge, it's all of these various challenges. So no, I don't think 14, because Yoshi-P talks about 7.0. Yeah, 7.0 will probably be something that we see before we see this next project. If it is an MMO, if it is going to be something like that. I think still we'll probably see 8.0 and 9.0 because unless they want people to move into the next thing, they're going to have to figure out what that is. And the ultimate question is that would they be able to even support 3 MMOs at this point? They've obviously scaled back in different areas, but these games like Yoshi-P even confirmed that 11 is just still going strong, and that's really exciting. It's a complex answer. It's a complex discussion. Should you continue to play, Shadowbringers and all that? Absolutely. We're probably not going to hear about what this project is, if it even is an MMO, and we're going to get to that here later in the video because there's some other thoughts that people have there. Because what would be different about it, right? If it's just a better looking version of 14, why not just do a Calamity? Why not just reboot it with the engine on next gen hardware? And just say, just like they did from 1.0 to 2.0, and be like, here we go, whole new generation. That could be it. Some people are even speculating that might be what we see. But set expectations, don't really worry about it. But also at the same time, it is fun to talk about and be excited. So thanks, William. Thanks, CTH, for those comments. And let's go ahead and dive into our next comment. So Kai Lopez writes, I love 14 and I'm staying with it to the end, but I would love Yoshi to announce either 16 or a possible 11.2. bringing all the high fantasy of Vana'diel to the next gen console and computer specs. And so yes, when I think about it, when I definitely agree with Kai. Like whether it's 11.2, whether it's 14 -2, or like whatever they end up doing with it, if it's 7 or if it's I would speculate 17. My theory would be 16 is going to be a single player game that they've been working on for a while, but just don't tell me about it until it's ready to come out. 17 would be another online RPG, or multiplayer RPG. Run by Yoshi-P's team. That would be my guess, ultimately, of what they would be working on, or it could become something, completely different. I think the high fantasy, that's what Yoshi-P's kind of talked about. That's what I would love to see. I would love to see that return to that Vana'diel style, high fantasy kind of environment. I don't know if I would want them to even pull from the various races. They have a lot of various worlds, a lot of history they could explore. They could create something brand new, but one of the things that would be a real strength is obviously if they tie into 11 and 14 with the races that we have as a really good starting point, for whatever they end up doing the next time in that space. I think that would be ultimately exciting. And then Mika Does Stuff writes, I personally would love to see another Final Fantasy MMO from Square Enix that is not bogged down by technical shortcomings or so centrally focused on homage of past titles. I also would love to see more challenge that goes beyond simple dodging or DPS checks and a strict adherence to rotations. I give him a hard time sometimes because I think Yoshida would really do well given enough money and freedom to pursue his vision and not the vision of a suit behind a desk or a keyboard warrior who wants things their way. Yeah, that's where I kind of start to lean into, we talked about high fantasy with Kai. Like, I definitely would love to see that. But what could they do? Like, what would be different? 11 has that real slow, almost kind of turn-based combat. 14 has faster combat, but it's still not action or kind of in that same way you would consider an action RPG. And I don't see them doing that with 14. I don't see them making a radical shift like that. And we do get comments along those lines, like, hey, let me know when this is an action RPG. And when I think about it, like, what would be kind of a missing pillar that would be different enough so that it's not necessarily like, oh, this is just a copy of 14 with just some different names. And because ultimately I think that would be, I don't know if that'd be satisfying. You guys can let me know. But it would be kind of in the action RPG, like in the sense. And so Xrune writes, Yoshi-P plus Diablo 4, take my money. Yoshi-P talked about he would love to work on a Diablo kind of game. And that's the action RPG, that kind of high fantasy. Like, what could Final Fantasy do in that space? I don't think Dragon Quest would be a good fit, and I could be completely wrong there. As somebody who loves Dragon Quest, the art style and things like that, I don't know if that would fit in well. It could totally work, but there is a lot that comes down to people really like that turn-based style. Like, Dragon Quest has kept pretty much its roots. Final Fantasy has that set in its like history and its DNA that it can do whatever it wants and it still can feel like a Final Fantasy game. So having it kind of in that Diablo-esque, into that loot mindset, into that online action RPG high fantasy world, but with the Final Fantasy twist to it, with the Final Fantasy, whether it's the job system or some other system they want to kind of layer on top of it, could be ultimately fascinating. And I mean, they could do a lot with it. And that's where I think when we look at the next generation, I think when we look at, let's just say 2025, we're going to be definitely right in the middle to the end of the next hardware generation. Hopefully they come in sooner. But that's where, like, when I look at my kids and look at something like that, like, yeah, we could all start this adventure together. We could all take part in this. And, an action RPG would be a lot of fun. Like, I've just recently been playing a little Phantasy Star Online, and it's like, wow, like, what if, they leaned into that with the storytelling that Final Fantasy brings to it, with the cutscene quality and the characterization and that level of depth. And while at the same time keeping 14 in its unique space with its unique style and strategy system, there's a lot that we could unpack. And there's obviously a lot we could theorize. Now, and finally, Lux Crux writes, my friend stopped playing around halfway through the Heavensward story. His reason is being the game is too old and he wants a hack and slash type of game instead of the system that we have in 14, so he's going to wait for the next one. I absolutely love this game. It's my favorite game that I've played, and I like Black Desert Online with the gorgeous graphics and the hack and slash fighting, but I can never replace 14. And that's where I think if we, to kind of put a pin on Kai and Mika and Zrune's, comments here, is that to put a pin on it, it's that it wouldn't be a replacement to it. Now, there could easily be something where, like, based off of our playtime, it would be cool to see, like, hey, it's brought into, like, some kind of, like, thanks for playing 14 because you've done this. Here, maybe you get some, get some glamour items. Maybe you get some pets or things like that just to kind of, as a thank you, right? I think ultimately doing those kind of things helps because that, if the game is different enough, it can serve a new audience. It can serve, things that, that might not speak to you. Maybe, 14 for life is where you fall and you're not looking for an action RPG. And that's totally cool too. And so hopefully, what we see with the new restructure, hopefully what we see with these engines and these technologies and the teams and the passion behind it is that you have that passion. Passion in leadership is ultimately the key thing when it comes to any of this. We can talk about like the engine making things harder. Well, you know what gets you around that? Passion. The wanting to do it, the wanting to create it, and the wanting to do that. And that's where Yoshi-P, I think, has fundamentally kind of helped fix and streamline some of the development issues so that hopefully the passionate people behind these decisions and these systems are allowed to shine. And that goes for 14, that goes for 11, and that goes for whatever's to come next in the future. And that's where things are going to get really exciting. I haven't posted it yet. I'm still working on it. But I think we're on the crux of a whole new era for Square Enix. I think when we start to see what's coming down the pipeline, when they kind of are able to kind of fix some of these, hopefully the development struggles and the issues that they've run into, when we're talking about Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy XV having these 10-year cycles being announced, when we talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake being this game that was announced a long time ago and it's still something that we're still waiting on, I'm hoping that we can see kind of a streamlined Square Enix that is allowed to be the creative and do the creative things that I think people want. And we've seen that with some of their games. We've seen that with Dragon Quest XI. We've seen that with Octopath Traveler. We've seen that with Nier, even though that was a partnership with Platinum. And so that's I think that we're going to be, when we start crossing into 2020, into the next generation, I think it's going to be a really exciting time for gamers. I think it's going to be a really exciting time, regardless of whether you're looking for the online MMO, for the action RPG, or for the single player story. I think, and I hope, that the next 10 years are just going to blow our minds. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your comments. Thank you so much for being a part of the workforce. My name is Bryan, and this is Work To Game. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey guys, it's me, Bryan. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new here, we hope you hit that subscribe button. Check us out. We talk a lot about video games, and we hope to at least hear from you in the comments below. We also try to respond to our comments. We really appreciate the comments, the discussion, all the various points of view that everybody is so kindly, I guess, and politely or impolitely shares with us from time to time. So anyway, guys, again, thanks for watching this video. We hope you hit that like button. We hope you hit that subscribe button. Come back for more content each and every day. We post a lot around here, and we'd love to hear from you about what you like about video games and everything, and especially if you have any questions that you're stuck on in anything. So anyway, signing off. See you next time.